Right. So the C value, it tells you the y-intercept. It tells you where it intersects the y-axis, where it crosses the y-axis. So an intersect just means cross. Okay, the points that it crosses the y-axis. Okay. Um. So that's what, and we, I think it'd be good to understand why is that the y-intercept. Well, it's because imagine that x is 0. Well, x is 0 on the y-axis. At this point, see, x is -2 here, it's -1 here, it's 0 here. At all points on the y-axis, x is 0, and then it's 1 over here, then it's 2, and so on. So if y is if x is 0, if you look at this general equation down here, if x is 0, then it'd be m, whatever m is, multiplied by 0 plus c. So if x is 0, then if x is 0, then y is equal to 0 times m plus c. So y is equal to c. So that's why that is, okay? So the next thing now is, what does the m value then? What does the m value tell us? So the m value is the gradient, okay? All right. So have you come across the word gradient before? What's gradient mean? Yeah, good, excellent. So the gradient is basically the steepness. Okay. Now, what about if it was a negative gradient? Like some of these have negative gradient, like the ones I haven't ticked have got a negative gradient. What would that mean then? Exactly. So if I untick these for a moment, just some of them, that one is going down, and so is that one. Okay. But the size of the number is the steepness. So you can see if we compare the blue line, the red line has got 3, and the blue line has got 1, and then that one's got 2. So you can see the red line is the steepest. But we still want to work out, how do we calculate the gradient? So the gradient is calculated by the change in the x-axis, the change in the y-axis divided by the change in the x-axis. So in other words, and we can say, and we use this little triangle. This little triangle means change in. So for example, triangle x, it's actually called delta, but it just means change. That means the change in x. Okay. So in other words, if I were to get a little triangle here, so we use a right angle triangle, we'll go to this point here, and then we'll go back up all the way to the top. We want to find 2 points on the graph, and then we plot, so those 2 points there, and then we connect them using this triangle like this. That the distance from there to there is the change in x. Now, what's the x value at this point here? So if that's the coordinates over here, and that's the coordinates over there, then when we go from -1 to 4, then the change in the x value is actually going to be 5. It goes -1 to 0, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So altogether, the change in x is 5. The change in y, it goes from -4 to 1. So the change in y is also 5. M is equal to the change in y over the change in x. In this case, it's 5 divided by 5, which is 1. And if we have a look at the blue line, m is 1. So that is how you calculate the gradient, okay? And just remember that if it's a negative gradient, just remember that the answer should be negative, okay? One of the way you can do it is you can say that delta x is equal to x2 minus x1, and that just means the second one minus the first one, and the change in y is equal to the again, first y minus the second y minus the first y. Yeah.